Hello again, this time we're off to Portland, south coast of the UK. In store today you'll see some discipline for Duncan. You'll even see a dolphin and of course some caves. Portland sticks out from the south coast of the UK into the east-west main tidal flow, and that actually creates eddies when the current gets to full speed, which can be around 6 knots. These eddies mean it's actually a short window to get right around Portland with tide helping the whole way. The contours off the point there range from around 12 to more than 100 metres in places. The result of course is the Portland Tiderace shown here, about 2 hours after we finished our paddle on this day. So the day begins at Portland Castle, which dates back to the 1500s when King Henry VIII was having a spot of bother with the French apparently. Access to the water and parking is actually free and easy around here, imagine that. So we head off from the beach, wipe the sun cream off our hands, try and keep a good grip on the paddle, and we are off into the harbour. Very distinctive skyline from Portland. And we're soon up beside one of the Royal Navy's tankers. Something catches Duncan's eye there, and that was our first glimpse at the Dolphin. This was taken off the 1080 camera on the jacket and then back to the 360. I've had to mess with the colours because the dark Dolphin against the back of the boat there, he was quite hard to spot. He wasn't very interested in us, just seemed to be bobbing up and down there beside the boat, but still very cool. We very rarely see dolphins like that. Last glimpse, and he's had enough of us. The two ships there on the right was Tidespring and on the left was Tiderace. They're both tankers for the Navy. And we get to the entrance. As we go through, you can see back over the shoulder some other buildings on the inside, and we're through the gap out into the open water. Really calm conditions at this point. The flow had just started going in our favour. The wind was light and it was coming from the east, so we were expecting some swell on this side of the bill, but as you can see here, there was close to nothing. The cliffs here, really typical. It's much like what we saw outside Warbarrow Bay when we went along the Jurassic coast, so it's very similar terrain. When we launched we had light rain, it was cloudy, it wasn't very warm. It soon started to warm up though, so we had to pull up, do a little strip tease. So here you go, you saw it first, come kayaking strip tease while afloat. Just what everyone's been waiting for, I'm sure. Fortunately you stopped there, so I thought I'd have a go. Back on with the job. And here he goes, looking much cooler. A few corners on, you're onto the cliffs. And you've got loads of these small inlets, undermined areas, some of them caves, not all of them are caves you could get into or would want to get into. The rocks, all these really distinctive square cornered slabs, and some of them have made some really exotic looking landscape, but some of them you can also see the roofs hanging down where the next slab wants to fall in. It would need a bit more than a helmet to keep your head safe when those go, I would imagine. I'm open to comments, but that little crane thing above, I've seen photographs of those lifting boats down to the water. Maybe that's what it's all about. At first I did think those were for lifting quarried rock down to other boats below or something. Up close look at some of these flat slabs, layers of rock. First glimpse of the lighthouse there to the left, disappearing round as we come in close for more caves. It's just fascinating getting in close. You can see each little crevice. One of the caves you can get into without a rock on your head. Back out of this one, keep going along the coast, find a few more caves along the way as we go. Just looking out for one you could go in one way out the other, a little archway there behind. Another small cave here. We're still inching along the coast now, coming closer towards the actual bill and the main lighthouse. Last cave now, almost even managed to surf into it. Small channel going off to this cave here. I could see straight through it from the opposite side, so had visions of paddling through and finding some amazing grotto, but it was all full of rocks on the floor, so you couldn't get through. Back out of there. Join up with Duncan again, and we're back on the way towards the lighthouses. The right hand one there, just behind Duncan's head, is the older one, which was there from 1716 and in use until 1906, at which time it was replaced by a new shiny red and white one, which we all now know and love as the Portland Bill Lighthouse, and it looks like that. So marginally interesting, useless factoid, apparently the name Bill comes from the beak shape of this peninsula. The building there just before the lighthouse is the Lobster Pot, the cafe restaurant there, and beyond the lighthouse is the obelisk. So if you've not seen Portland Bill, this is what it looks like from up close in a kayak. I've sailed past it, and it can be a much more lively experience when the weather's not in a good mood. So the last glance back towards the east, looking at the obelisk and the main lighthouse, and we're round the corner now on the western side, coming straight up to what's known as the Pulpit Rock. The gap there looks tantalisingly welcoming to paddle through, but with the swell I chose not to. Didn't really fancy my face smeared up the rock there. So close in, round the Pulpit Rock instead of under it. We'll get a look into this next little bay area. The swell now coming in from the southwest is it's a lot bigger than we saw on the opposite side, obviously, but it's pretty benign considering where we are. Can get very different on this point. And a quick glance back through Pulpit Rock from the opposite side. You might also notice I've got a new paddle here. That was a really cheap bargain from Gumtree. It's a Lendal carbon thing, very nice. Clearly a bit of swell action going on, and the wave being reflected back off the rocks. Not unmanageable, but yeah, interesting. You could imagine this on a really rough day. Could get really fun. The fence along the top there runs along the outskirts of MOD site, some sort of defence site. I had to chuckle to myself looking at what's not underneath those fence posts, if the guy that was digging the holes had any idea what he was drilling into. Maybe I need to get out more. So around the next corner of the cliffs here, we were surrounded by, we were dive bombed by, overflown by all manner of seabirds, loads of guillemots. A lot of them just out of range really of the lower resolution from the 360 camera, but it was quite spectacular, really lovely to see. But while it all seemed completely inaccessible down here to humans, there's a guy dangling on a string there, a bit of rock climbing going on, And then just a touch further on, people fishing. Goodness knows how they got down there, if they'd abseiled down for a fish. But as shown here, it's sheer cliff straight to the water. Really spectacular. So coming up on the last corner there, starting to get views now of Chesil Beach. And still looking at these crazy layers of rocks. Okay, now we're on that corner, looking forwards. What we can see is Chesil Beach, and we get the first view there of Fortune's Well, which is the village just on the corner of Chesil Beach and where the land juts down to the south. And here we go, final approach now onto Chesil Beach. Chesil Beach is 18 miles of pebbles, so a bit of a long boring run going along there someday maybe. So the beach is fairly steep. It was actually a remarkably dignified landing. I had visions of getting bashed into there. A little bit more swell, and I imagine this is quite an unpleasant beach to turn up on. But there we go, we pulled up here, we had a sandwich, Duncan had a swim, and next mission was go off and find the car. Not wanting to break with tradition, here's the GPS track, showing zoomed out for perspective, and again zoomed in, showing where we actually went around, leaving from the Weymouth side and then round towards the west, coming up on Chesil Beach. As always, stay with us for more. There's plenty more to come. There's still footage that's not been edited yet, and of course there is Iceland coming up later this year, so keep in touch.